How do seasoned note investors streamline their business? Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV. Well, where every week at 11:05 Central Time on Wednesdays, we bring you, the most exciting guests and the most amazing content. Well, this week's guests, they are no different. We'll get to those in just a minute. But before we do, let's talk about, make sure and hit that like button, like this episode. Make sure and share this with your friends, right? Share it with your friends, your business partners, all of those out there that you have in your database. And then make sure also, and if you have not already done so, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to our NoteSchool TV channel. And then lastly, make sure and hit that bell notification. Yep, boom, hit that bell notification so that you will know when we go live when. Every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. Also, keep those questions and comments coming in. We appreciate you bringing those to us. We read each and every one of those, and so please continue to do that. Also, if you'd like to know what we do at NoteSchool, please just simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. With that, I want to bring on NoteSchool's founder, the chief visionary officer, all-around good guy, my friend, Mr. Eddie Speed.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Good morning, sir. It is a great day, and you just got back from a big conference in Nashville, right?
I did. Got to go hang out with some old friends and new friends.
Right.
And pretty fired up about the business and what we're hearing out there overall. Obviously, we're seeing it, but I felt like that was definitely the complexion of the event. So very good.
You know, Eddie, I just wanted to say today that you and I were very fortunate to have had people in our lives that brought us into this business. And I'm thankful for that today.
Well, you know what? I don't believe I would, if I wouldn't have had the mentors I had, I don't believe that you would have ever known about me being in the note business, because it wouldn't have lasted.
It wouldn't have lasted.
That's right. So obviously, 20 something years later, when I later formed a school, I had that vision in mind. How many people would have had a story like mine that they would have done it, they could have done it, but they didn't get it because they didn't have enough leadership and guidance and somebody to guide them through it.
That's it. And that's why you started NoteSchool 20 plus years ago.
About 25.
Yeah. Yep. Coming up on it. Yeah. So Eddie, let's talk about the Daily Hoodle here. As far as the news goes, this is a big number, sir.
Wow.
$517 billion in unrealized losses hit the U.S. banking system. FDIC says 63 lenders are on the brink of insolvency. So interesting stuff. Banks are now saddled with more than $500 billion in paper losses on their balance sheets, due largely to exposure to residential and commercial real estate markets. Wow.
Joe, we have read so much about this and seen so much about it, and I don't think I've ever seen anything that has been so suppressed in the news more than this. I mean, like you listen to the national news, nobody's ever mentioned this. Like ever mentioned their department. Now, if you read the rags and go to the specialist events and specialist conferences, specialist reading material and reports that we see, people are talking about every week. But the reality is, this is not something the regular public is seeing about. And I love that word they're using, unrealized losses.
Yeah.
That means that they haven't taken the hit yet, because when they do, the banks are, bam, you hit the insolvency button.
Well, they call that mark to market, right? So yeah. If you had to mark those assets to what the market value was, it would be a whole different story, wouldn't
it? Listen, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Well, and just to finish this up, Eddie, is that, the FDIC says there's no imminent risk, right? of all the industry just imploding, but everybody's just a bit concerned, right? As it should be.
Yes, I'm glad the Fed's made that statement.
Well, I had to put that in there, you know.
that does everything for me.
It doesn't it make you feel so much better?
we have seen reports that say that there's up to half of the FDI insured banks that'll be closed over the next few years.
Yeah.
So merged with other banks. It won't look like it did back in the 80s, you know, when all that. So it'll be different, but it'll be similar.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Eddie, you're going to bring on our guest. You're going to have a great show, and I'll come on at the end. So I'm going to drop off, and you do that thing you do, man.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Well, our guest today, I think you guys are really going to enjoy. They're special friends of mine. We in NoteSchool, we've kind of figured out we hang out together a lot, and we become a family, and we get to know each other pretty well, and we get to know a lot of our backgrounds and stories and their special skills and talents. And I agree with Joe. I think you're really going to enjoy this couple today. Now, we're going to have to ask them some hard questions because they come here with some experience, and we want to know how they simplified their business. And they're kind of working through it to streamline it. And they do a very good job of that. And so we'll try to do a good job of uncovering that today. You guys welcome Larry, Gill, and Marishka Pilch.
Well, hello there.
How are you?
We're doing well, thank you. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good. I'm as you guys know, we're pretty fired up about all of this market condition.
Yeah.
And I think as you saw that, you know, these reports keep leaking out about the banks, and the chairman keeps telling us, don't worry. I heard him say it on 60 Minutes back a few months ago. And I thought, well, I'm not worried, but don't act like it's not true.
Yeah.
Because that's no good, right? You guys have become long friends of my wife, Martha, and I, and I'm so grateful for that, and grateful to get to know you guys. Tell the audience a little bit, like, well, first of all, when did you join NoteSchool, and where do you live?
Yeah. Well, gosh, we joined NoteSchool. I'm not sure of the exact year. I think it was somewhere around 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. Yeah. Yeah, we were newer investors. We only had like a rental property or two, and we met you at one of the local, you know, RIAs is what they had back then, and we were kind of fascinated. So yeah, but now we live, and that was when we lived in Western Washington, and a few years ago we moved to beautiful North Idaho, and we just love it here.
In Hayden, Idaho, close to Coeur d'Alene. So yeah.
Now, I always say that you live in Coeur d'Alene, but that's probably because I hadn't been to the Hayden post office. Okay.
That's right.
You guys live in a beautiful part of the world. Yeah, I met you guys. So back then, a lot of the way that we grew NoteSchool is we met people at Real Estate Investor Association events, RIAs, they were called. And that's not quite the direction of the industry today. But we met, and you guys were in the Seattle area. And it's been quite a journey.
It has.
Yep.
Yeah. Not only has the market changed a lot in those years, but you know, NoteSchool has changed a lot. We've changed a lot. Yeah.
I'm still young.
Yeah.
Yes. All young. We're just more seasoned than we were, Larry.
There you go.
Let's talk about your business a little bit. Let's talk about what you're focusing on today, right now in the market.
Yeah.
What's that look like?
Well, you know, we had been looking and anticipating this market change for a number of years. We got into the business shortly after the last housing crisis, and we did pretty well with it. And, you know, made some money, and, you know, helped a lot of folks. And we had been anticipating that the market would be shifting kind of in that direction again. And, you know, I don't know, it's not going to look exactly like it did, but, and it's taken longer than we thought, but we've been looking. So what happens now is there's a lot of folks who have properties that maybe they're tired of being landlords, and we help them find a good exit where they can still make money. And there's some tax strategies and different things with that. So we end up actually creating notes, and we're back to doing some lease options again as well. And but we still like buying performing notes. So if we come across those, we love to buy those because that's just steady money.
And because we do a lot of networking, we're always asking people as far as what are you guys seeing, and really all across the country. And we've got our people that are, I consider our team that yourself included. I say, so what's the next step? What do we need to look out for? And that's what we're always preparing for. And we're really grateful that we have those relationships. I think anything in real estate, you need to have those relationships that you can rely on and that you can turn to say, how can you help me out, or how can I help you out?
It's kind of like, I actually worked in the medical industry for a period of time, and it's almost kind of akin to that. You have different specialists, and they confer with each other, and they know more about this body system, and these guys know more about this body system, and they kind of confer and figure out how to treat the patient, if you will. So it's almost, I almost look at that as being similar in the note business.
Well, it's a trusted source, right? Yeah. I'm on some social media sites, as I know you guys are, and I hear people that honestly, I can tell by their answer they don't know very much. Yeah. And so just because it's free information doesn't mean it's valuable.
There you go.
And so we try to, within our tribe, we try to really exploit the opportunities and make sure that they vet, and we beat those ideas up enough that we know that they really work. And so you guys are a loyal part of that. I appreciate that to no end. All right. So you're successful note investors. You're successful note creators. You create your own notes. You buy your own notes. Mm-hmm. And you have done that through the years. I love the fact that you're saying, you still have abandoned lease options, because lease options really work good as a creative finance strategy that moves into owner financing, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes maybe they don't have all the money up front. It makes more sense to do a lease option initially, and then as they get that bonus, and as they sell that property or whatever it is, then all of a sudden they're a better candidate to be a buyer. And so I love that hand in glove thing that you create there. I want to talk a little bit about your systems and how you really manage your note business. People ask about this frequently. Like, so you guys are veterans, right? You've been with me about 14 years, right? Mm-hmm. And you've been in some, very advanced groups. And so how do you do that? What does that look like?
Well, honestly, I don't know that we have anything that's rocket science, but it's important to keep track of things. And so we each
have our own tasks that we basically, I do certain things that she doesn't want to do, and vice versa. It's basically like, say if we're creating a note, say from the very beginning, one of the first things we do is we look at the due diligence. And the beauty is that there's so many resources that you can do online, and that's really probably the main process. And then from there, after we do our due diligence, then if it's a note we're going to buy, then Marishka takes over and sets it up with we buy it and set it up with servicing, and it's actually a pretty simple process.
So we use spreadsheets to keep track of things and to analyze things. And we have a very simple CRM system. We've tried to get some fancy whiz bang ones, and we just kind of come back to simplicity. And then there's certain things that, we just kind of let the servicers deal with. And we try to take advantage of, there's so many vendors who are available now. Larry just kind of alluded to that. There's vendors who are available now who can do so many things for you that you don't have to be the one doing it all yourself. And that really allows you to be a banker, if you will, because, you know, if you've ever had a loan, if you've ever, you know, borrowed money from a bank and secured it against a house, I mean, yeah, they'll do an appraisal. So we'll do a BPO. They'll check your credit. Well, we can, you know, do that. You know, you make sure that the note's structured and have the right paperwork and everything. So it's really just taking advantage of those vendors who've made themselves available to help you with those areas that either you don't have the expertise in, or you don't have the bandwidth to do, or maybe you just don't like doing it. So there's a lot of things you could outsource.
Well, and there's probably some things that you guys just at this point automatically do that maybe somebody that's brand new wouldn't think about. Like, you got to go set it up for the servicer so they have the right information. You got to go set it up for the bookkeeper who is entering it on your books in the right way. There's got to be something that you told them about what you did, so now that they can then go do their job, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so when you set something up with a servicer, I mean, if you're buying a note or if you're creating a note, you want to make sure that you have an account set up with a, you know, licensed servicing company, and they're going to provide you with a list of things that you need to provide to them, and you just go through and make sure that you're giving them all the documents that they need, including, you know, where to send the money, you know, simple things like that. And so then, you know, as far as like our bookkeeper is concerned, you know, we let them know that we've, you know, acquired or created this note. We give them an amortization schedule, and then they just kind of keep track of it all.
Yeah.
So kind of a funny story. Years ago, Marishka made a comment about the note business can be kind of boring. And I know, what do you mean it's kind of boring? It's like, well, you know, it's like the money just appears into our account, and basically if everything's going well, we don't even really have to know what's happening with every single note every single month. And so yeah, there are times where I say, well, so what's going on with this note? It's like, honey, if there was a problem with this note, we'd know about it, but it's going just fine.
Well, the old saying is, of course, that boring is good when it comes to investing, right? You don't want exciting. Exciting is usually not what you're looking for, right? I want to go back and talk. I mean, obviously, we have placed a lot of emphasis over the years in vendors and systems and process to introduce our NoteSchool members to, like you guys. It's changed a lot, hasn't it?
It has.
Yep.
Yeah. When we first got started, we were, you know, we were on the phone on a, you know, toll-free conference call. People driving their cars and dogs barking in the background and kids screaming and everything, you know. And so that's changed. I don't know. Did you even have a website back then? I'm not sure if there was one.
I probably did, but it wasn't probably much.
It wasn't as robust as it is now. I mean,
heck,
I just was on there last week, and I mean, even in just the last couple of years, it has grown so much, and there's so much available on there.
We have a gigantic library, as you know, within our NoteSchool members, and we try to have a very high communication of what's going on in the market or solving problems and stuff. And, you know, we have found a lot of vendors that have various softwares or various things that just weren't accessible back then. And we're continuing to work that. In fact, we got some big announcements actually coming up, really big announcements, and for some efficiencies in those areas. So pretty fired up about that. People hear the word loan servicers, right? Let's talk about that. Give us a little bit of some clarity of what you expect of a loan servicer.
Yeah, well, you know, there's, in addition to just keeping track of the payments and making sure that, you know, you're getting the money coming in and, you know, it's being applied appropriately. We have our notes usually set up with impound, so they're also collecting taxes and insurance and making those payments when appropriate. But, you know, they also, you know, provide documentation like a 1099 interest statements at the end of the year. So that's something that I can just give to our bookkeeper, and, you know, I don't have to figure that out. But then they're going to be kind of the frontline people as far as communicating with our borrowers. And I usually try to, let them know that if there's any issues, I'd like to know about it, because the last thing Larry and I ever want to do is take somebody's house back. We would much rather figure out a way for them to stay in their house and get back on track, because usually when there's problems, it's an event. It's not a lifestyle. If it becomes a lifestyle, then that's an issue, but most of the time it's an event. It's a medical issue. It's a job loss. It's a death in the family. It's a divorce. It's something that is transient. They will overcome it in time. And if they want to stay in the house, by golly, we want them to stay there.
Well, I think the key thing is, for us, same way. I mean, the administrative side of what a servicer does for us really keeps us compliant with the law, keeps us happy with the IRS, right?
Yep.
Keeps the customer where they want, and it keeps them straight. Like if they're collecting escrows, like they don't have to go manage their taxes and insurance. They just know that they're making a 12th of that payment every month, and then that the payment that the taxes are getting paid and the insurance is getting paid, and all of those things are what I kind of call it. They can create a situation where your note becomes a coupon clipper, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it just makes your life easier, and like you said, it also keeps you compliant, and that's important.
There are things to learn. You guys have been through so many trainings with us, so many deal labs, so many circumstances, but servicer management, what you are supposed to do as the owner, what is your role as managing the servicer? And obviously we've had countless conversations about it, but I think once you get clarity of that, it really does help. And you even are a better client for the servicer because you know what the industry standard is.
Exactly.
Right? But you also know to hold them to the industry standard.
Exactly. Yeah.
It'd be like having a contractor that you had no idea what the work they were supposed to be doing and trying to oversee that contractor, right? You got to know a little bit so that you can take it in the right direction.
And just tell them what your expectations are. Like, for example, in 2020, we were very concerned that, what was going to happen and were all of our loans going to go into default. And so we contacted our servicing companies and we said, look, we would like you to increase, have our contacts be a little more high touch. If anybody's having any problems, I want you to let us know. We're going to work with them to get through it. And we didn't have a single note go into default or even become late during that time period. And in fact, we had somebody who had gone from long-standing rolling 60-day late to being current and paid ahead.
Thank God for that government check, right?
Well,
oops, did I say that?
Hey, whatever it takes,
Well, and too, it's like if people are being taken care of, it's like they end up referring their friends to us and say, hey, we heard that you created a note you helped somebody get into a house in Michigan. And so our friend is looking for something like that as well too. And she's got X amount of dollars that she can put down. So in that sort of thing, we can actually, either buy a house or somehow help her get into a note and then also we carry that note. So
got it. All right, let's change gears a little bit. Another thing that people ask frequently is, okay, you're here in this beautiful little area, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. If you've ever seen it, you want to Google the prettiest place you've about ever seen, that would be Coeur d'Alene. You have a beautiful new home up there that I've been up there and shared a meal with you in. Just terrific situation, but there's just not a lot of business right around you. How do you find deals?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We have a fairly low population density in our neck of the woods, but there's still people who buy houses and create seller finance notes. And so, certainly we've done mailings in the past. You can do mailings anywhere. and just, connect with people who've created seller financing and potentially buy their notes. We do a lot of networking, both locally and all around the country. And so, we have people who contact us from California or Florida or Tennessee and say, hey, I've got a note, you've got some offerings, NoteSchool itself, or not, but its affiliate company, has offerings for notes. So, I mean, you just start talking with people and you find out that, hey, there's notes that can be bought and sold. And what's interesting about the note business is you think that you buy it and you're just going to hang on to it forever and ever. Well, sometimes it makes sense to maybe sell that note or sell a partial and vice versa. And so, it's a great little ecosystem when you get into the world of notes and you discover that.
And even within NoteSchool students, we've bought notes from other students and other students have approached us about selling, us selling them our notes as well too. So there's that, again, back to the networking sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we've tried to do in NoteSchool, is to have an ecosystem, right? And you're right. And I would say that we don't necessarily buy a whole giant amount of notes here in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Right.
We buy notes in Dallas-Fort Worth, but we buy as many in Houston, or we buy as many in, wherever another town as we do in our town. And you're the same way. You live in an area where you're not really relying in any way on that local economy producing notes or opportunities.
Not at all. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we moved here is, we said to ourselves when the world was kind of blowing up in 2020 and we were visiting here in the summertime, and we said, we have this virtual business. What on earth is keeping us? And so we just packed up and moved because it really doesn't matter where you live. As long as you've got a phone and a laptop, you can do business.
I got it. I love it. All right. So do you prefer buying notes or creating notes?
Boy, that's a tough one. Both?
Yeah, both. Yeah, it depends.
It really depends. I mean, sometimes there's some great opportunities to buy notes and buy them at a discount. The thing I like about creating notes is I really understand, what the collateral's like. I can, really understand, the borrower's whole situation. And so I have a little more, not control, but at least a deeper level of understanding. So there's that. But, again, you can just do your research and do your due diligence and make up for any deficiencies when you're buying a note by just discounting it.
Well, I mean, in my situation, I've bought probably 50,000 performing notes, and then I've created probably 4,000 or 5,000 notes. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Nothing like that. More in buying notes versus creating my own notes, just because it takes such a different level of energy and a level of operation to go buy somebody else's notes, so long as they're good, as you said. So, but you guys have always split that, and I've always been impressed with the fact that you've, and another thing I've always been impressed with you guys is I know you take long trips, you go to Hawaii, you go to other countries. I mean, you do all this cool stuff, and you have really had a lifestyle first focus in your career.
Yeah, we have. I don't know why. We just always just
I think it's smart. I mean, you're enjoying life. You picked a business that lets you do that.
I think that's the key, is that we discovered, this avenue very early on in our investing career, and it afforded us the ability to do that, instead of when I was working in corporate America and I had to figure out, when am I going to be able to take time off? And, Larry with his own business trying to figure out, my clients are going to need me, so, yeah.
Okay. One thing that I wanted to kind of use, because this is part of a system, or it's part of a process, or it's a tool. And a lot of people don't think about it, but, most people that seller finance, some of them use a realtor to sell their property, but a lot of them don't necessarily list a property with a realtor. and you've sold property in multiple states. I don't know how many, but a good many. Not 50, but
No.
more than 10.
Yeah.
With seller financing. And you've done all that without being near that backyard at all, right? So how do you sell that property?
The same way we buy it. I think once you've done, years ago, again, I never really imagined that we would be doing all these deals remotely, but once you do your first one, you go, God, that wasn't so hard, and really it comes back down to finding the right people around the ground. If we're buying a house, whether it's
an inspector or a broker.
Well, I want to jump here to zero in on something that you guys have become very good at. And a lot of people just don't realize it. But many people that are really good at seller financing property have become good at knowing how to utilize Facebook. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all about marketing, right? Whether you're trying to find a note or a property to buy or to dispose of a note or property. And so, yeah, Facebook is a great tool. Larry can probably speak to it much better than I can, but it's just a way to connect with people.
We've got 3 properties going right now on Facebook Marketplace that we're selling with
seller financing
or lease option. And it works great, really, is because, it's pretty inexpensive. You get a really good coverage, and boy, if you say the right words, then your phone can just ring off the hook if you want it to. But yeah, that's just one.
Larry, how long, if you had a property, you live in basically northwestern Idaho, right? Let's say that you have a property in Alabama, right? How do you market it on Facebook, and how long does it take, and what does that look like?
Well, I'll jump ahead as far as how long does that take. It really depends on whether or not everything is priced right. If it's not priced right, it'll take it just about any other time. Or how long?
Yeah, if it's priced right, it's not for sale. Is that a fair statement? It's not really for sale if it's not priced right.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
You price it right just so that you start out with a chance, like that's not a real business if you're trying to overprice property where it's not worth that. Right?
Exactly. And that's one of the things that's nice about Facebook Marketplace is that it doesn't date when you have advertised a property. So if you advertise something on the MLS, or if you advertise something on Zillow or Redfin or any of those other, they'll have like, okay, this is when the property was listed. This is when you had a price drop. This is when you had a price increase, whatever. But you see this whole history, and pretty soon an ad can get stale. So you can actually use Facebook as almost a test balloon to kind of test the waters and see, where do we need to be? Do we need to raise the price? Do we need to lower the price? What's going to work? And so that's a great.
Well, Larry, I've got a property. I'm confident that I have it priced with seller financing. I'm looking for a good buyer. I'm not looking for just anybody to go occupy the property. I'm looking for a qualified buyer. If I have it priced correctly, what do you say is the average time to probably move a property in that manner on Facebook?
A month. Yeah, 30 days.
In this market. Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be less. I mean, it might go real quick, but I'd say that's about average.
Yeah. And there's certain parts of the country where if we're offering seller financing, and one of the first questions people ask is say, well, how much is my down payment? And of course, we open a conversation. We ask other questions as far as what can they do? What can they afford? And of course, they want to know how much of their payments are, but we can't really, until we know exactly what's their background and what's their history and so forth, we really can't give
income
either one. But the beauty of seller financing properties, we can basically cater to what might work for them. We might, if it's a note in again, like Michigan or Illinois, that's not a very expensive house, we can set up for 15 years or 20 years, or if it's more expensive, we can set up for 30 years and
Yeah. And just tailor it to their situation as far as, what's their income, what are their resources, how much of a down payment do they have?
And I think for me, that's one of the fun parts of the business is basically if we can help deserving buyers get into houses,
It's pretty gratifying.
it's gratifying. It's an adventure, and we love it.
Well, one of the things that I think we've learned to do well in our little community is learn how to go use something like Facebook or a yard sign, right?
Mhm.
And just really, and there's vendors that can go out and physically do what we need to do. It doesn't take our hands or our boots on the property to get it done. In fact, I like that better, Larry, because we're not tempted to go wear the tool belt, so to speak, right? We just get a vendor to go do the stuff that's, that needs to be done. And then we become focused on the deal. And I know you guys are really good at running Facebook ads and getting property sold. And I've heard you say, I've seen you do it countless times where you've got a property that's way away from where you live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're marketing on Facebook and you find good buyers and you have a vetting process. So you're not just letting anybody in.
Right.
But you've done a pretty dang good job of doing that. And just as I like to say, you live where you live and you do business where you want to go do business.
There you go.
Yep.
I like that. That's called freedom, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I call freedom.
All right. What advice would you give a new NoteSchool investor?
Yeah.
Get involved, just basically make sure that you're getting on the deal labs. There's a minimum of 3 calls every single week that somebody can get on. And, and actually not just going on to the calls and just, having the background and not really paying super attention, but also maybe finding a deal that you can bring onto the lab and say, hey, I've got this issue or I've got this deal, or I just want to, I want to learn how to do this. So, gosh, if you got a question that you think is not something that's, or it's kind of a basic question to you or to other people, it might not be to other people. So bringing that on a call is everybody learns from the call, but basically if we do that, we learn from that. Super.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that's helped us a lot in doing trainings is that we are with you guys all the time. So we get to see what questions you have. We get to understand what process you need to understand. And so it helps us train because we are helping you guys on the backside, finding assets, investing in deals, managing the servicers, all of those things. And so it helps us be better at training people how the business works. And so it's pretty fun. It's a hand in glove thing. I'm not sure, Larry, we don't learn more from you guys than you learn from us. because as you said, now you're such a veteran, the simple stuff I know that you already do, but you didn't always know it. None of us would naturally know it. And so that became the case. So I like what you said, get involved at whatever level, right? It could be just coming to a class. It could be whatever wherever you're at, right? That's the next thing is to go learn enough that you know what a good deal looks like and you know what a bad deal looks like.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of value too. And sometimes people think that they can only bring a deal and it's all about structure. It's all about due diligence. And you have to have those things, as you say. But there's also a great opportunity, I think, on the deal labs to even, kind of work through some of the soft skill stuff.
Oh, yeah.
How do I talk to a note seller? What if they say this? What do I do? Oh my gosh, And I think that people don't realize that, you've got so much experience and there's other people who have a lot of experience that, we can kind of just throw out some ideas for you to try and to, overcome those obstacles and those monsters. But, and that's where somebody said one time, as far as trusting the process, do steps 1, 2, and 3. You don't have to know what 4, 5, and 6 are. We'll help you get there. You have to trust that we'll help you get there, but you need to do steps 1, 2, and 3 first.
You got to plow through the process, and you got to, as you learn, you'll learn to simplify it. And when you do that, then all of a sudden you have a boring business.
There you go. Well, he's embraced the boring.
And I think I think so much of his mindset too. If people come into it with the idea, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing here. I can't get this. It's just really difficult. It's like, we actually appreciate it when people call us up and say, hey, how did you do this? Or can you help me with this idea and so forth? Because again, back to what you were saying, is like when we help somebody do something or learn how to do it, it's like, well, we're teaching ourselves, because they may have come across something that we've never done before, but as we possibly help other people go through that, we're learning as well too.
That's it. All right, Mr. Joe.
All right. Wow, guys. Amazing. That great job. Great job. I love a couple of things that you said. Number one is helping someone get into a house that they couldn't get into, a deserving buyer, as you said, Larry. That is super gratifying. And you guys were talking about Facebook Marketplace. I remember that little house you guys had in, what is it, Morenci?
Yep.
Michigan. I think you advertised that in one day, and you had 150 or something, and sold it in 2 or 3 days.
So well, a month is average. Yeah, it could be 2 or 3 days.
For sure. Guys, thank you so much. This you guys again are an inspiration to other folks out there. So that's it. You have it direct from Larry and Marishka, and we will see you next week on NoteSchool TV, 11:05 Central Time on Wednesday. Have a great week.